And let's go on to Earth Abides. So tell us, what was it about Earth Abides that made you think, you know what, it's worth it cracking out the free trial on MGM Plus?
It's because of a book. It's an adaptation of the book Earth Abides by, I think it's George R. Stewart, if I get the name right, that was published in 1947.
All
And
right.
it is one of those, if you look up sort of American post-apocalyptic fiction, it's the one you have to read basically, and it's sort of comparable to a British science fiction like The Death of Grass and
Okay.
John Wyndham, post-apocalyptic ones. It's in that sort of world post-war where a lot of science fiction writers were looking at the state of the world and
Yeah.
then sort of writing this speculative fiction.
Yeah.
And if it's like you're like Christopher Paul, you descend into savagery because you've just seen it
Mm-hmm.
and you've seen what the world is capable of, or as has some people dismissed some of John Wyndham's novels as a cozy catastrophe that
Mm.
people maintain their manners even when the world falls apart. And
Yeah.
this one is sort of a combination of those two. It's set in modern day. But I'm always wanting to do like a compare and contrast with the book because it's what the book was what drew me to it.
Yeah.
So a brief synopsis of the book. The book, post-war, 1947, a young man is in the mountains and he's aware of some sort of disturbance going on and he sort of comes down out of the mountains. He sort of gets bitten by a snake and then he fights off the fever caused by this snake bite. And then when he emerges, he goes down the mountain, not knowing, hearing anything, or seeing another map, and he finds that the world has changed. And so,
this, this sounds like we're back in elevation.
yes, it's exactly the same. Yeah, two they are. We could do a compare and contrast between the two of them as well. But yeah, the world has been changed, but it's this time it's an illness. It's a pandemic that has swept around the globe, and but it has been far more devastating than anything we've seen for centuries. It's reduced the population to 1 or 2% of what it was. So you have literally had millions and upon millions of people have died. And it is about how this young man, his name is Isherwood or Ish,
Oh yeah.
he the theme of the book is the death of civilization, is the death of one civilization and what happens when one civilization dies before the birth of the next. It's that
Oh.
between times. That's the main themes of the book. And there's lots of symbolism, like they use the Golden Gate Bridge as a symbol of the old civilization. And as it the book progresses, you see it deteriorates and it falls apart. And
Yeah.
Isherwood, he is the last American, and he often talks about he tries to preserve his culture. He tries to teach them how to read. His family. He has a children and he has a family, and he
Yeah.
tries to farm. He tries to take the pieces of civilization that he knows and try to pass it on to the next generation. But they're not having any of it. They're just not interested. And when he tries to tell them about what it means to be an American, they don't get it because to them it's just like a word. And so
Yeah.
he becomes known as like the last American because
Yeah.
he's the last person of their community who identifies that way. And
Yeah.
so it's about the death of a civilization in the book. So we then jump 50 years ahead and they've got a new adaptation of it on the television. So it's a post-pandemic world, obviously, because they reference the COVID pandemic in it.
Oh,
So
okay.
a modern thing, and they say it was nothing like that last one. But this one you have Isherwood is again, but this time he's a geology student looking at rock formations up in the mountains above, well, the sort of highlands in Northern California. And he gets bitten by a snake, and he retreats to his cabin. And people try to get him to leave, but they think he's basically ill with this virus, so they
Yeah.
leave him there. Then he recovers from the virus, but the same thing, he emerges into society, goes back home to find that everyone is dead. There's just no
Yeah.
one around. And he tries to find other survivors, but can't find anyone. He meets a couple who are like living in like Las Vegas and basically sort of living in this sort of nihilistic last days. How they fulfill all their fantasies before they decide that the world is dead. There's no point carrying on. We're just going to do our fantasies. We're going to do everything we want to do. Rob banks. We're going to do gamble and live hedonistically. And
Yeah.
he's like, no, no. I think we can. There has got to be more of this. So he meets a woman, and then they form their own community. And then
And I'm guessing this is a TV series.
a TV series over 6 parts, and
Okay.
then you
Oh,
see
all right.
So you see how he forms his community, how you get conflict. So there's certain things that happen from the books that they do copy across. There's conflicts where there's another group of people. This conflict arises when you get two completely opposing views of what a leader should be and what a leader can be, and then
It's
relationships with how much of the past you bring forward with you, how much of the things you try to save, what you preserve, what you have to leave behind, and
it's
interesting.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. It's setting off my Walking Dead alarm.
Yeah, but it's not. It's very much more enclosed than that. It's this one community,
Okay.
but the enemy was the disease. It was no, there was no. But
All
yeah,
right.
there's elements to it about this other people coming in. But I personally, I thought I like if I looked at it on its own, I think it was fair. You know, it was an adequate program. It was like fair enough, but didn't actually shed any. Wasn't anything ground shaking. But if you compare it to the book, I think they just missed a trick because I found in this they work out how to set up solar panels, so they've
Yes.
got electricity.
Yeah.
They work out how to do like a gravity pump, so they've got running water.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the death of a civilization, one of the make themes of the book is, you know, in 2 or 3 generations you're going to be hunter gatherers again.
Yeah.
You cannot you can't forge steel, you can't weave cloth, you don't know, you forget how to keep engines
You've forgotten
running.
a lot of the basic things that actually build a
Yeah,
civilization.
yeah. When you lose some of these things that you rely upon, you can't actually pick up the pieces of your old civilization. You more or less regress back to almost like hunter gatherers, which is
Yeah.
what happens in the book. His grandchildren were wearing animal skins, and they live almost like a nomadic existence.
Mm.
Whereas in the end of the book, they're living in a town with electricity, running water, and they're still wearing like the clothes that they've scavenged.
Wait,
They've
at the end of the TV series.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think you've learned nothing from the stories of the book. You've learned none of the lessons of the book about this whole thing about what happens when civilizations die.
Is it one of those things where they essentially just took the basic premise and went, we're going to take the basic premise and we're going to make
Yeah,
something generic that we think people want to
yeah.
watch?
And we're not going to worry about the things like because you know, in things like keeping the calendar.
Mm.
They only do that for a couple of years because everyone says, you know, why? What does it
Yeah.
matter?
Yeah.
And now but in this they keep the calendar. They mark the years, and in the book they stop marking the years. It's no point. And
Mm.
in this they like grow crops, and in the book obviously they give up growing crops because none of the young people are interested. They can just hunt animals and eat meat. So
Mm.
yeah, I think they missed a trick. It was okay, but I think they just dropped the ball on it in terms of adapting a book. So
I,
I would give it.
so I was just thinking. I wonder how these things get made. Like,
Well,
why
it's a
does
very
MG?
well-known book in America. I think it's like one of the West. If you say Day of the Triffids to a British person, most of them would have an idea what it's about. I think if you probably said to an American Earth Abides, they'd probably have an idea what it's about.
Yeah, but for instance, Day of the Triffids, you say that, and the BBC are going to go and they're going to throw money in to make Day of the Triffids, and they're
Yeah,
going to put it somewhere so everybody knows they've made Day of the Triffids.
yeah.
This is on MGM Plus, which is a streaming service that most people do not know exists. I can guarantee that they do not know exists, and they and so that makes me think that the people who made this must not have spent that much money on it, and
The only cast member that I knew was Alexander Ludwig, who plays Isherwood Ish. Who I
okay,
know him from Vikings. He was
yeah,
Björn.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Björn Ironsides from Vikings. He's the only one I knew in it.
Yeah.
But there are probably some other faces that you pop up and think, oh, I sort of know who they are.
Yeah, I sort of know who they are, but it's I just don't
And
know how things.
they haven't obviously they haven't explored the world. You see there's a lot of stock footage where you see like flocks returning, but most of it is like filmed. I would say probably in the hills of Northern California. So you go like you've got the woods,
Hmm.
you've got, and then you've got like matte shots of the city sort of disintegrating. So I would probably say yes, it was probably on a more limited budget. It wasn't vast.
Yeah.
But I
Anyway,
thought
sorry,
it
you were going to say how
television
many
fair.
stars?
Television fair as an adaptation of the book, I'd give it two,
Mm.
one or two, because I just think they missed the point of the book. They've missed it. But as a television series, you pick up and watch. It's fine. It was okay. But yeah, and you wouldn't be left thinking, "Wow, that really would make me think about the nature of civilization." No,
Yeah,
it
at the
absolutely.
beginning when you were talking about the themes of the book, I almost said, I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like some heavy themes to try and carry in a TV series."
Yeah, and they don't bother.
And so they were like, yeah, it's a good name. Let's use the name. Yeah, we're going to use the name.
Yeah, this is it. And there's some of the basic things. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, if you've got like the nuances, let's just keep it with the top bit. Let's just leave it with the surface stuff. So I'd say 2 as an adaptation, 1. No, sorry, 2 as an adaptation, 3 as a just come in cold. It's fine. Enjoy it. Forget about it.
As you can see, we have had a rip-roaring week of viewing. It has been amazing. It has been inspirational. Why the heck do we make TV shows and films?